all of us in this. So it's kind of like the new Facebook. It's great, and it has a lot of cool things. We already have some posts on there, but we appreciate it if you contribute with us and really be involved. Check out the website. It's pretty straightforward. And we have this amazing flyer that some of the committee members did, and they worked hard on, and it describes everything that's on the website. So it's pretty nice and pretty helpful. You guys should check it out.
Okay. I'm sure Michel Foucault would approve of this Facebook. Yes. Okay. Very good. Thank you, Waffa. Right. Lars, what are you celebrating with that hat? Okay. Are there any questions? Right, we're into Foucault today. Shh. We've already probably had sections on Foucault, right? Some of you have even seen the little discussion debate between the handsome Foucault, isn't he handsome? The handsome Foucault and the charming Chomsky. Yes. How many have seen this?
Yes.
Yeah, you can all see it on YouTube. It's a really pretty interesting little exchange. 12 minutes, that's all. It's amazing what you can find on YouTube. Yes, indeed. Okay. So look, we're a little bit behind, but not too much. What you should read for Thursday. This opening chapter is probably the most difficult chapter in the book. Contains an enormous amount of material, actually. We won't be able to discuss it all. But anyway, I want you to look at page 23 and 24 every day. It's only about a page, where it contains Foucault's sort of programmatic statement of how, he thinks of sociology in principle, but also how he thinks of his understanding of power and the significance of power. That's page 23, 24. And then I want you to read pages 170 to 194, and then it gets a bit easier. And basically that is his understanding of these three dimensions of disciplinary power, namely hierarchical observation, normalization, and examination. And I think you will all recognize yourselves in these forms of power. You will see it all around you. Your vision and understanding of the world in which you live will be indeed transformed. Okay? Sienna, can you read that?
Yes.
Can you read it for us? That's back to read and study.
Read and study page 334. Foucault's programmatic
Statement. Very good.
Statement. Page 170 to 194.
Meaning, without an N.
Number one, number two. Normalization. Okay, that's a C. All right, so number one, normalization. Number two, hierarchical. Number three, observation. Number four, examination.
Yeah, observation is all one. Hierarchical observation, sometimes known as surveillance. Okay, read. I think you'll enjoy it. After Durkheim, everything's enjoyable. Oh, but Durkheim. All right, I've got 5 things to say about Foucault, quickly. One. He's a brilliant guy. Brilliant philosopher, and he has to be seen in the context of post-Second World War French theorizing, and indeed of Marxism's resurrection, you might say, in France after the Second World War. And it's basically, you might say, that there is a debate going on between 2 interpretations of Marx and Engels' writings. The one interpretation is the one that I gave you. The idea of a system of capitalism having its laws of its own, and individuals are but carriers of social relations. That's on the one side, the structuralist perspective. There is on the other side a part of Marx and Engels that we actually didn't read, and I refuse to even countenance in this class, namely the focus on the individual, the early essays of Marx, the so-called Paris manuscripts where he writes about alienation, and he writes about what's been talked of subsequently as his humanist writings, and focusing on the individual and the possibility of the emancipation of the individual. And there he talks about human beings have a particular character. The notion of human nature is very prominent in those early writings. Now, the early writings do appear in the later writings, and we've had to talk about Marx and Engels' notion of human nature. But the focus of the early writings is very much on the individual and the potentiality of the individual. What we also found to some extent in the German ideology. That humanist Marx, the focus on the individual, is taken over by Sartre and the existentialists, and they focus very much on the responsibility of the individual and the possibility of actually living a emancipated life now and possibly in the future. The focus is on the individual. Whereas Foucault takes the more structuralist reading of Marx and Engels and takes it to its extreme, and then basically will have nothing to do with notions of human nature, and focuses on the idea of the individual as in fact an effect of social relations, that the way we behave is a function of the institutions in which we exist. So there is this argument, quite vitriolic argument, debate between, in a sense, Sartre on the one side, the great intellectual, and Foucault, of course, comes later. But there is this debate. On the one hand, Sartre emphasizing the responsibility of the individual and the idea that every act in society is a moral choice and the world depends upon that moral choice on the one side. And on the other side, we have Foucault saying we are individuals, we are effects of institutions. We are the effects of institutions. That we have to see ourselves embedded in institutions that actually shape us and that we really have very little room for maneuver. And he very much thinks that Foucault is really his whole view of human nature and of humanism and the potentiality of human beings. That's all a strategy of power, and in a sense it's a strategy which actually makes us feel part of, makes us subordinates and subjugates us more effectively to the existing world. Alright, that's point number one. Basically that we'll see that Foucault is very much, if this is Marx, there's two readings of Marx. The early humanist reading focused on the alienation of the individual, the latter structuralist reading which focuses on the dynamics of capitalism, and this is Sartre, and this is Foucault. Though, of course, we will see Foucault has a lot of criticism of Marxism, but he bends towards a more structuralist reading of society. Alright, that's point number one. Point number two is that, as already evident will be from your sections and from what I said already, Foucault is obsessed with power. Power. He's obsessed with power as much as Durkheim is obsessed with solidarity. And he will see different periods of history as marked by the deviant. And the deviant is constituted as such by an apparatus of power. That in certain ages, when he writes about madness and civilization, one of his famous books, it is the mad person who is the deviant because we're obsessed with rationality. And so the mad person is locked up and subject to power, to repressive power. Foucault himself, as gay person, is concerned with also labeling homosexuals as deviant. And the way that is a strategy of power, which he writes about to some extent in volume 1 of History of Sexuality, which we will not be reading. And today we might say that the terrorist is actually the deviant, the focus of power. We're rooting out terrorists. In the 1950s we were rooting out communists. But whether we're rooting out terrorists or communists, this affects everybody. This becomes a way of controlling the behavior of everybody in society. Everybody becomes suspect. So these are, for Foucault, strategies of power. Different periods define different entities, different groups as deviant, and that also displays the particular configuration regime of power. Third point is the ubiquity of power. There is no escape. There is no escape. And anybody who thinks, in fact, the worst thoughts, the worst theory is the theory that thinks there is an escape, that thinks there is a future beyond power, or thinks that there are spaces in contemporary society that are outside power. Some people think the academy, for example, is outside power, that we generate truth here because we're outside power. Foucault say, no, this is an arena of power, no less, no more than anywhere else in society. Power is everywhere. We cannot escape it. To think that we can is an illusion, a dangerous illusion, which is itself a strategy of power. Yes. So those who postulate alternative futures, utopias, like Marx and Engels, I'm being silenced by Foucault here. Those who think of the future, who think, for example, the communist future will only bring down upon human race totalitarianism. Of course he sees that in Stalinism. He sees actually the Soviet Union is actually the carrying out of that utopian goal. That utopias are easily turned into the foundations of new repressive orders. And Durkheim's utopia. No, it's not as utopian, of course, as Marx and Engels, but nevertheless a utopia, as we talked about it. That too is a form of coercive regime. The idea of people being slotted into places in the division of labour according to their natural talents. That whole vision, that whole project is a strategy of power and domination. Yeah. Yes. And those who think by saying yes to sex is no to power, which they used to do in the 1960s, that by so engaging in what was it called? Polymorphous perverse sexuality. Oh, jeepers, what's wrong with my voice? Oh, something. I'm going to survive. Thank you very much. Oh, this is a $4.7 billion industry I'm engaging in here. Yes. This is also a strategy of power. Thank you very much. Oh, that's much better. Okay, right. As I was talking about sex, wasn't I? All right, yes. That's right. Polymorphous, perverse sexuality. Something, as Marcuse, another great sociologist, social theorist, philosopher, who we are not studying, unfortunately. Oh, I must go slower. Okay. That he thought that one way to conceptualize and think about the future communist world would be to think about it in terms of liberation, sexual liberation. And Marcuse makes fun of him in the volume 1 of History of Sexuality by saying, that very idea of a sort of emancipated sexuality will come home as a new form of domination in which we feel compelled to be liberated, compelled to engage in these multiple forms of sexuality. Okay, well anyway, he is not very enthusiastic about utopias. That's the third point. Fourth point. What's happened to me? All right. Fourth point. Yeah, biopower. You see, all these points are related. But his idea is that life is regulated. As we live our lives, we are regulated. And that is what he calls, in the most broadest sense, not in this book, but other books, biopower. That is the regulation of our lives. Therefore, the only way to escape that regulation of populations, through institutions, the only way to escape it is to die. And so he flirts always with the idea of death. He flirts with the liminality of his existence. He enters into dangerous scenarios. That is at that liminality of life that one has a feeling, a sense of freedom. Yes. And so not only obsessed with power, but some might say obsessed also with death, which explains many of his activities in California. That was the fourth point. The fifth point is that we are reading Discipline and Punish, one of many books that he wrote, and probably the most widely read book, but it's not for that reason that we are reading it here. It is because it is very parallel to the division of labor, Durkheim's division of labor. They are very parallel books, as I will seek to demonstrate in the next 2 weeks, so I will not forget Durkheim. And on the one hand, they are parallel, but are fundamentally and profoundly different at the same time. And it is that similarity and difference that will be the heart of our discussion. Okay. Right. Any questions? Yes. Anders. No. You're Anders. I said Anders, didn't I? I said Anders, didn't I? Rosa, where are you? I said Anders. Thank you. That's power. No matter what I said, Graham still will agree with me. I said Anders. You're Anders. You sure?
Yes.
Good. Okay. Yes?
I always thought Foucault is regarded as a post-structuralist. So what is the difference between a structuralist and a...
As far as we're concerned, there's no difference. He's an extreme structuralist. He's an extreme... wow, that's amazing. This is extraordinary. I've never lost my voice in the middle. Oh, my God. That was your fault, Anders. Is there a microphone here? Let's see. Hold on. Shh. Yeah, hold on. Let's see if I... Hello? No. Is there a... Oh! That's pretty good. Okay. Cough drop. I love a cough drop. Yes. I don't believe this. It's all the strategy of power. Okay. Now I was going to read from. That's probably what I was going to read to you. The Execution of Damiens. Have you? Oops, that's all right. Let's see if we can. Hello. Yeah. Listen to this. It's extraordinary. How many people remember this? On the 2nd of March, 1757? On a March, 1757, Damiens, the regicide, was condemned to make the amende honorable before the main door of the church of Paris. The regicide is somebody who tried to kill the king. He didn't succeed. Where he was to be taken and conveyed in a cart, wearing nothing but a shirt, holding a torch of burning wax, weighing... This is really terrible. Why is it making such a... Yeah? But, no, it's just making it bad. No, why is it... perhaps not fine. Why does somebody... Mike, why don't you read it out? Yeah. Stand up.
Other section told me I really want to read this too. Other section made me read this. I said, you really want to read it, don't you?
Go on.
On 2nd March 1757, Damiens the regicide was to make the amende honorable before the main door of the church of Paris. Wearing nothing but a shirt, holding a torch of burning wax weighing 2 pounds, then in the said cart to the Place des Gras, where, on a scaffold that will be erected there, the flesh will be torn from his breast, arms, thighs, and calves with red hot pincers, his right hand holding a knife with which the said parasite broke with sulfur, and on those places where the flesh will be torn away, poured molten lead, boiling oil, burning resin, wax, and sulfur, melted together, and in his body drawn and quartered by 4 horses with his limbs and body consumed by fire, reduced to ashes, and his ashes turned to liquid.
Now, listen to me. Very good. Finally, he was quartered. Recounts the Gazette